Welcome to the Google I/O session on integrating Google Plus into your mobile applications. My name is Julia Ferraioli. I am a developer advocate working on the Google Plus platform. Most of my time is spent making sure that developers like you have what you need to be successful with our platform. Before we get started, I'd like to get a quick poll. Who here is working on a mobile app or has built one? Fantastic. I think this is the right room, the right session for us today. It's clear that we have some really passionate mobile developers here. We've actually got another one joining us today. I'd like to introduce Francis Ma.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everyone. My name is Francis Ma, and I'm the product manager leading our mobile developer efforts for the Google Plus platform. It's a lot of fun here meeting you guys face to face. You guys having a good time? Excellent. And today, we have some exciting stuff to share with you. Now, just before we go there, I want to first take a moment to reflect on the reason we're here and to share our vision with you. It was exactly a year ago when we launched Google Plus with two goals in mind. First, it was to build a social destination to bring the richness of real-life sharing to the web. And second, it was to build a platform that serves as the social spine across all of Google products to make our services better with identity and sharing. And in the last 12 months, we have built an engaging community of over 150 million monthly active users who come back to Google to engage with one another or participate in conversations. So now we're taking this next step to extend the platform to mobile developers with the vision of helping you create more engaging social experiences and to connect with more users. Now, the reason we've chosen to treat mobile as a first-class citizen, because we believe, and as many of you probably also do, is that mobile is the future. Let's take a look at some of the numbers.
So if you've been to any of the other mobile sessions at Google I/O this year, you may have seen some of these numbers. But just to refresh, we have over 100 million smart devices active in the United States today, and over 950 million globally. But sometimes that's kind of hard to keep in my head. I don't really know what 950 million devices looks like. So I'm just going to put this picture of a pink baby up on the screen.
What's that?
So for every child born per minute, there are 3 smart devices being activated. So to handle that, the kid would have to use 2 hands and maybe a foot, something like that.
Wow, must be expensive if you have triplets.
Better start planning now. But what does this mean in terms of Google Plus?
Yeah, this exciting growth on mobile, we're seeing that too on Google Plus. Today, more users access Google Plus from a mobile device than they do from a desktop computer. And with this incredible momentum, we're very excited to announce the Google Plus platform for mobile and our very first release in developer preview, Google Plus SDKs for iOS and for Android coming soon.
So today, we really could use more than the 45 minutes we have, but we're going to use the time we have to cover the overview of the platform, as well as how what we're offering comprises a complete mobile story, including meaningful identity, lightweight social actions, and the ability to write moments from within your app. We'll be telling this all through an app that we've built just for this session at Google I/O. We're going to leave about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A, so please save your questions till then, or come see us at the Sandbox office hours or on Google+. So the Google Play Services is is a broad, let's just give a broad overview of Google Play services. It's how integration with Google Plus will work on Android. Google Play services will be an extension of Google Play, and it's designed to make OAuth and web services easier from your Android application. Now, all Froyo Up devices will have Google Play services installed, and that means that 95% of Android devices will be able to take advantage of this. Now, it handles the complexity of identifying the user so that you can focus on creating a fantastic user experience within your own application. But what does it get you? Well, Francis really loves playing games. And sometimes, he's on a road trip and he's had a really great high score on one of his favorite games, and he wanted to share it. Maybe show it off a little bit, But right at that moment, he entered a tunnel. Cell reception dropped to nothing. Ordinarily, the app would have to handle these instances where you lose connectivity. But with Google Play services, the app can still try to share that out. The call will be automatically queued until connectivity is regained. So your app no longer has to handle that sort of complexity. It also handles updates, so that if you're picking up an SDK that maybe has some image resources or client libraries to an API, if those particular resources were updated, you would have to pick up a new version of the SDK, incorporate it into your app, test it, re-release, etc. Now, with Google Play services, that update will be handled within Google Play services itself. So you no longer have to go through that process and pick up new bits. Decreases time for you as developers. And so all you have to do is include a thin client library within your app. And it decreases the app size because you're no longer including those images or client libraries. And you can keep the size of it down that's beneficial to your users.
So it's really exciting to give you this sneak peek of the Google Play services coming soon. And to walk you through the details of how you do this, we're going to show you an example app that Julius built called the Hiking Planner to solve a little problem that we had with our friends who are a little bit less organized and less motivated to come hiking with us. And so Julius built this Hiking Planner app to help organize and to recommend apps between our friends. Now, one of the things that she wants to do was first to build a personalized experience. And in order for her to do that, she needed to add a sense of identity in the app. Now, she knows that there are hundreds of millions of users with Google accounts using services like Gmail, Android, and YouTube. And so instead of creating her own login password and reinventing the wheel, she's decided to use the Google Plus SDK and plug in Sign In with Google Plus so that she can focus on her app and let Google handle the authentication. Now, from the user perspective, what they get is Sign In with Google Plus button. With this, we handle user authentication and app authorization through OAuth 2. Let's take a look at how this works.
So who here has used OAuth in your applications? Who here absolutely loved that experience?
We have one.
Okay, so one of the great benefits of using the Google Sign In with Google Plus in the SDK is that you can abstract away those details of implementing OAuth. So the first thing that you'll want to do in your Android application is just make a one-line change to your manifest file, updating the permissions. This allows you to make use of the Android account manager that Francis just showed, so that if your user has multiple accounts on the device, they can choose which one they want to use with your application. The next thing is you're going to want that button, right? You want to have your user have some way to sign in. So this button, it's a predefined button that allows you to have that nice look and feel of sign in with Google+ within your app. It's really quite simple. After that, you're just going to want to implement the interface, the connection callbacks, and the on-connection failed listener. You're going to add a few variables here. We have the progress dialog that lets us know where we are in the sign-in process. If your user is in the middle of signing in, this is what will show that. The plus client and the connection status. In the onCreate method, we simply want to initialize our plus client, and you'll notice that here we're adding the plus profile scope. And this allows you to fetch information from your user's Google+ profile to create this nice personalized experience within your app. We're just going to initialize the progress dialog and then go on to a few other methods. You're just going to override these lifecycle methods, including onStart, onStop, onConnected, and disconnected. In the onConnection failed method, you're just going to set the connection status here. So if authentication fails for whatever reason, this is where you'll get back that status. So once the user sees the button, they're probably going to want to tap it, right? That's my inclination when I see a button in my apps. So you're going to want to configure the on-click listener. Now, we're just going to pull it out of the view here. And if it's not connected, we're going to start that process of signing the user in. And all we have to do is start the resolution for result in the connection status. Now we're going to give it a code here, request code for error, and this will allow us to find out the result in the on activity result method. Now, if this was a sign-in action, you're going to be able to see the response code, and here we're just going to assume that the user signed in successfully. They've selected their account. They've accepted the permissions of the app, and everything is result A-OK. Once we know that, we can go ahead and connect the user using the plus client object. Now, obviously, you're probably going to want to do some error handling in your own app, but for the sake of screen size here, we're going to assume everything went well.
So let's take a look at a real demo of how this works.
OK.
Okay, I'll switch over the screen.
So here we have our hike planner app. This is just a very simple app to help us get involved in more hikes with our connections. So here you see this sign-in button here, and we're just going to go ahead and tap that. It's going to pull up all of the accounts that I have on my phone. I'm going to select the one that I want to use. It's going to connect. We're operating over Wi-Fi here, so OK.
So you saw earlier in the screenshot, the user experience when they tap on the Sign In with Google Plus button is they see the account chooser, which you just saw, and it allows users to choose the account they want to sign in with. And the next step after that would have been the OAuth consent dialog to prompt the user, hey, this is the permission we want from you to integrate with the Google Plus APIs, and from there it goes right back to the app. Now, one of the things you may have noticed is that the user doesn't need to actually type in their login and password. So, and as many of you may already be familiar with, the Android account manager is that users sign in to the phone. So with that, they won't have to retype in their credentials every time, and they get a single sign-on experience for your app.
Now, one of the great things about having your users sign in with Google Plus is the fact that it makes calling APIs, particularly the Google Plus APIs, a breeze. So then you can go and do such great things like get their profile information and personalize it with their name and their profile picture. And that then can give them a really connected feeling to your application.
So now that we have a sense of user identity in the app, the next step is to make it more engaging by adding social interactions. Now, as I described before, that Julia wants to make this app to, one, help our friends organize going on hiking trips, but we also wanted a way to let our friends recommend or endorse particular hikes that we like. So she's chosen to add the +1 button. Now, as many of you may be familiar with the +1 button, it's a way to let your users publicly endorse or recommend any content with a URL associated with it. Now, in this particular example that I've just put up, and something that you can do for your apps as well, is to point the +1 button to the Google Play Store URL so that your users can +1 your app. So you can imagine that this is really closing the loop of when new users come in or come onto the Google Play Store, they can see social annotations as a result of people they know who have +1'd. So here I've zoomed up of the text that says, you and Julia +1 this. So let's say if our friend Jennifer comes onto the store and she might say, oh, hey, look, this is pretty interesting. I may have not heard about this app before, but my friends recommend it, so let me try it out. So with that, you can also, of course, integrate that into your app. Let's take a look how to do this.
So when we were trying to figure out what part of our app would benefit the most from the +1 button, we thought, what a great way to recommend the individual hikes than to put a +1 button on the hike itself. So we decided to put it into the individual hike view. So you're just going to add it to the layout. Here again, it's already defined for you. The look and feel is there. You'll notice some standard Android layout elements. And at the bottom, you see the +:size. Now, just like on the web, the +1 button comes in various sizes. You can have a small one, a medium one, a large one, and you can set those attributes directly in the XML file. You can also do this programmatically as well. In your onCreate function, you'll simply pull it out of the layout, initialize it with a URL. In this case, we're going to target the URL to the Point Reyes hike that we have. Now, while we're pointing it at an HTML file that has some information, some nice schema.org markup on it, as well as a picture, a description, etc., you can also +1 other types of content, such as pictures, videos, music. All that matters is that it have a publicly accessible URL. And so you can include this in various points within your app.
And so +1 is a great way for people to recommend content that has a URL associated with it. But sometimes on mobile, you may have content that's stored on your device but not have a URL associated with it. For example, I like to take pictures and videos that are stored on my phone, and there isn't really a way to +1 that. Or sometimes there's content that I would like my users to share more directly to Google Plus without first having to +1 it. So with that, you can use the Share plugin to share into Google Plus. With the Share plugin, you can open up, we provide a dialog through our SDK for you to open the Share plugin for your users to share into Google Plus. Now, for this particular dialog, we provide a way for users to select the circles that they want to share it to. There is an option to attach their location, so you can use this as a form of checking in. And they can also attach specific media that's stored on the device. Now, what's interesting about this is when they share it from your app, we also put a label attributing to where it came from in the specific post when it shows up on Google+. So here, you see this label from the hike planner that I've shared from, and it shows this is where the post was created. So when you share interesting information on Google+, and as users converse around that, it also helps drive awareness to your application.
So you may have heard of intents on Android, specifically share intents. The recently released Share Compat support package for Android made this even easier and also supports the attribution that Francis was showing you. So the first thing, we're just going to create a really simple intent. And this is just to get our friends up and excited about a hike and to prompt them to come join, because it's really a good time. So we're going to use the Share Compat support package. The intent builder will help us construct this intent. Now here we're just going to set some text. Hey, I'm going on a hike. Who wants to join? Once we get the intent and start it, it'll open up that Google Plus dialog that allows you to modify it or and select circles. But you can also really easily share links in your intent as well, simply by adding in the link within the set text part. You're just going to append it onto the end of your text. Now, what will happen is that it will go and it will look at that link and draw it out into a nice preview in the post. So here we are pulling out a title, some text, and a picture, and that's what will be attached within your post. But one of the great ways to spark these really engaging conversations on Google+ is by attaching media. And we're just going to modify that same intent to do that. We're going to add in set stream and set type. And you're just going to set the target to the data that you want to share. So say you have an app that can share photos. What you'll do is once you get the result of that camera action, you'll set the data there and tell us what type of media you're sharing. And that's all that's to it to share media. But your user has already signed in with Google+, so why not make that even easier for them by opening up the Google+ dialog directly? And you can do that with the set package part here. So you simply specify which application you want to handle this share intent, and it will automatically open that up.
So let's take a look with the demo.
Okay, so here we go. We've got our plan and share section here. It's going to organize with my circles. So let's see how that looks here. Okay, so I'm trying to corral my friends. I'm going to say, let's go on a hike. You know what? It might be a really crowded hike if I just add everybody. So let's just do this with, let's search for somebody. Let's search for Francis. There we go. And that's okay. And you know what? I'm going to choose location. We're actually going to go on a hike someplace else, so let's not attach location to this post. And once I send that off, it will be sent to, my post has been shared, and it'll appear in Francis's stream.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we take a look at the plus one button as well?
Excellent.
Let's check that out.
So here we have the Point Reyes hike. We've got it centered around where it is on the map. And up here, you can see the +1 button. Let's go ahead and +1 that. So here you see it's got, you publicly +1 this as Julia Ferraioli, an attribution to the Hike Planner app.
And just like the desktop +1 button, the user has the option to share after they +1 as well. Okay. So now, while sharing to Google Plus is great because it lets people comment on it right away, and all your circles, whoever it might be, can see it and interact around that immediately. But sometimes there are little moments in life where you just want to remember, but not necessarily share it right then and there, or have it shared automatically. So for example, Julia wants to remember specific moments from her hikes, and she likes to use instant upload because it's a great way for her to capture photos and have it uploaded to the cloud automatically into her private album, which then she can share at a later time. But she wants to do that not just with photos, with other things as well. And as a developer, she wants the ability to hook this functionality into her app. So with that, she's chosen to use Google Plus History. So Google Plus History is a new feature that we've recently announced in developer preview that lets your app write moments into Google Plus and into the user's private history and allow them to share that at a later time. Now on Android with Google Play services, we have a special intent for you to write moments from your app. So when these moments are recorded into the user's history, they can go back onto Google Plus afterwards at a later time to then optionally share to their circles.
So how do you construct this moment within your Android app? Well, it's quite straightforward. You're just going to construct an intent with some JSON. So for our app, we wanted to add the ability to check in to maybe a particular hike. Maybe the start, maybe the end. Hopefully they're the same place, maybe not. So we're going to construct, in this example, a check-in moment. The first thing that we're going to do is create a JSON object for our place, where we're going to check in. We're going to check in to Point Reyes right here, and we're going to put that in the URL for the place. Next, we're going to construct the overall moment, and we're going to give it the type of check-in activity. And then we're simply going to put the place in the target of that moment. The next thing that we want to do is actually go ahead and construct that intent. And we're simply going to create a write moment intent here and put the stringified JSON in the payload of that moment. Now, once we send it off, it's sent to the user, privately to the user's history. So, should we take a look at our app?
Yeah, let's do a demo.
So Francis and I went on a hike. We went on a hike out behind the Google campus where there's actually a nice trail. It was really strenuous.
Yeah, it was a nice afternoon exercise.
Yeah, so we coordinated using Share. We took some pictures and video. We checked in along the way, all written to our history using moments. So on Android, here we have a few options to create our moments. We can check in, and you can see it was saved. If you were going to take a photo, you could then write that into the user's history, as well as for videos. But let's take a look at the end result here.
So one of the things that Julia mentioned earlier about Google Play services is that. So one of the things that Julia mentioned about Google Play services is that it also remembers or queues this up on the client side. So even though if you have temporary connectivity loss, we automatically retry that for you.
So if I were on Mount Everest and I didn't have cell service, I could still brag about it later?
You can still brag about it later.
Cool.
So here's this an example of my history here. And so we went on the hike the other day, took an afternoon hike during work, and we checked in, recorded some of this here. So this was from the +1 earlier that we showed you from the Hiking Planner app. And we've also captured a video. This is really awesome Oscar-winning stuff here.
We did some slow-mo here.
And so with this, through the history, I can then now choose which particular moments I want to share with my circles. So let's take a look at what happens when I hover over this moment and share it. Now, because we snuck out during the day, I don't want to share it to all my circles. I want to share it to colleagues, but not my boss. Don't tell them. All right. And there it is. It is shared. I want to go back to the stream. There it is.
Francis, maybe you want to share the check-in so they actually know where we went.
Don't know if I want to reveal that to my boss.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we've been spending the past couple of minutes talking about Android, but I did mention there was an iOS Google Plus SDK as well. So we're going to take a quick peek at what that's about.
Right. So we actually developed the same app for iOS as well. Would you like to switch the? So I, as a word of caution, I am not in any way a designer. So this is bare bones hike planner app. So here we have the sign in button. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. Now, because I have the Google Plus app installed on my phone, it's actually going to, and signed into it, it's actually going to use that for my identity.
Well, the Wi-Fi is a little bit flaky here today.
We are operating on Wi-Fi here, but.
So what happens is very similar to the Android side, where, as Julia mentioned, if you have the Google Plus app installed and your user's already signed into that, we use the Google Plus app to handle the app authorization so that the user won't have to re-enter their login and password again.
Right. So let's take a look at Share on iOS. So here we have the same organized with my circles here. And it's simply going to open up the share box with that text pre-populated like on Android. And I can add who I want to share. And it's going to show my connections, my circles, and I can search as well. And then, of course, when you finish or cancel, it'll go right back to your application.
And with that, you can also attach a location with your post through the iOS Share plugin as well.
So let's take a look at how you would go about doing this on iOS. So the first thing, just like in your Android app, you're going to create and configure your Sign In with Google Plus button. Now, all of this is included in our SDK. So once you add it to the view that you want to handle sign-in, you're simply going to set a few things here. You're going to set the delegate to your view controller that you want to handle it. And then you're going to tell us what your client ID is. Now, who here has seen the Google APIs console, this I/O? OK, so you will get your client ID by going to the Google APIs console and creating a project. Then you're going to tell us what sorts of scopes that you want in your sign-in button. Now here we're going to add the plus.me scope, but you can also add other types of scopes as well. So, and this could be, if you want to write moments, it'll be the write moment scope, or if you want to add other Google Services scopes here, you could do that as well. And then you're simply going to set the app delegate to the sign-in button. Now, in your view controller, you're going to add the sign-in delegate here, and this is simply tells you what happened when your user completed authorization. And here, once you implement this, you can do other things like populate the view, maybe make an API call. And this is where you would find out that result. In your apps delegate, you're going to forward declare the class and simply declare this property for the sign-in button. And you're going to want to handle the result of authentication in your app delegate as well. So whereas if you have the Google Plus app installed, it will go to the app. It may also, if your user does not have it installed, it will default to the web. And this is how you would handle that result. Now, sharing on iOS is very easy. All you're going to do is first create the share object. And you're going to initialize it with your client ID and set its delegate. And then you're just going to simply tell us what you want to share and open the share box. Here we're just going to do the let's go on a hike. We're going to actually share where we want to go, and then we're going to open it. Now, both of these properties are optional. So you could simply open the share box up with nothing there, or you can make it as rich as you want. When you're thinking about writing moments on iOS, it's actually going to look a lot like it does on Android. You're just going to construct the JSON object and send it off. So here we're going to construct the place, and this is simply an item scope. These are some open source libraries that come with the SDK. We're going to set the place to our hike, and then we're going to create the moment with our hike there in the target. You'll then construct the query and simply send it off through the Google Plus service. So it's your turn to really go out and empower your users to start making moments within your app. Allow them to really engage with each other and construct these moments. Now you can get started by visiting our mobile-centric documentation here on our site, as well as engage with us on our Google Plus developers page. We'll be posting the session slides a little bit later at this URL, but you can also get to it on the Google I/O session page. We'll also be posting the code for both of these applications a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. So thanks so much for coming today. We're going to put our contact information up on the slides while we take some questions. And we may have something for people who ask questions.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned that we have to have a sign-in button. Is it necessary for them to click sign in, or can they just click on +1 and you would automatically, if they're not signed in, you would take care of it?
So on the Android side, we do help the user sign in through the +1 button so that they don't have to explicitly click sign in. Also to note that we do provide the standard button asset of sign in with Google Plus, but we also give you the option to hooking it into your app in a more appropriate flow as well. So that's another option.
And we can use our own custom +1 buttons and all also? Do we have to use, because the app may not support, there's not much space.
We do have standard branding guidelines around how the +1 button can be used, and you can reference that in our developer documentations.
Okay, and one last question. Once you're signed in, are we supposed to save the, some kind of credentials so that they don't have to sign in again and again, or?
So the end result of using the sign in is you get the OAuth token. And so you can use that much like you would if you had manually integrated OAuth to yourself. You can use that token to then call the APIs with it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And can I I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask, but can I post on behalf of another user? For instance, let's say someone registers for a marathon, and we're doing the timing of the marathon, and we know they finished, and they've authorized us to post to their profile their time. Is that supported? I do that with Facebook and Twitter.
So that's an excellent use case for Moments, is the ability to post to a user's private history from your app automatically. Then they can go and share that out to their circles in case it's an embarrassing time or what have you.
Then
That would be me.
Exactly. So is that they can authorize us to post to their history?
That's correct. In the sign-in button, you would simply add the scope, the right moment scope. And then you would be able to construct that moment. And I'm trying to think what a time would be. It might be just a generic object, create activity item that you could then send to their Google Plus private history.
I'll try that. And also another question is, I see this post to history.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that now with Google Plus app, I can post without any, like right now it seems like it fails if I try to post without network connectivity. Is the Google Plus app going to support offline mode then? Or how do I do that?
It'll be the Google Play services that we showed much earlier on in the presentation. So just to recap that, Google Play services is it's a service that is provisioned through Google Play, and it lives on the client side of the device. So because you're interacting with this client-side service, we handle the offline queuing for you. So the answer for specifically writing Moments, yes, we provide an intent on Android that you can write to it, and we also handle the offline retries for you.
But I guess I'm asking the Google Plus app by default, will it support this too? Like the one that comes with, like when you install Google Plus, I try to post and I'm in the subway and it just fails.
I see, sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Yeah.
The Google Plus app currently does not have the retry.
Oh.
Yep.
Will you be exposing support for integrating with the new Google Plus event stuff? Because that would be awesome. Instead of making a post, come join me, start an event with like TBD location, and then figure all that out.
Right now, what is supported is retrieving event information through the RESTful API. You can retrieve events through the RESTful API, but as for creation, we have nothing to say at this time.
Okay, that works.
Hey Francis, this is Arthur from Flipboard. I have a question about the OAuth token.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a token associated with my app or with Google Play?
It's a token associated with your app.
So we can use it on the back end to make requests on behalf of the user?
That's right. So with this Google Auth service, this token is associated with your app just like it would be had you manually integrated OAuth to yourself. Now, for Android specifically, this token is associated, it's meant for a client-side API call. So in theory, you can pass it to your server, but at this time, we primarily focus on having the clients speaking with the Google Plus APIs directly.
And in practice? I mean, we need to use it on the server side because all of our API calls are made on the server.
Absolutely. That's something that we're looking to improve on.
Okay.
And so we can definitely talk more about your specific use case and how we can address that.
So I have one other question. So we support YouTube and Google Reader and a ton of Google properties. Can we go through the same mechanism for getting credentials for those services?
Yeah, so one of the things that you saw earlier was we give the user an option to pass in the various scopes, or we let the app pass in whichever scopes that it is that they want to ask for. So one option, just throwing this out there, is that you can ask for, let's say, YouTube scopes and also Google Plus scopes at the same time, so that the user will only see one consent screen and they can just grant the access once and you're good to go.
Thanks.
Thanks, Arthur.
Also come see us later for stickers, those people who have asked questions.
This is about a little more about privacy. That the data that we retrieve through the API, especially on Connect, what's our right for storing it offline on our services?
Can you be a little bit more specific about what data
Let's say
you're
if we
talking
retrieve
about?
a user's name, for example, or their
Okay.
email address, can we store that for later use associated with another account? Or?
So we do have standard terms of service that cover these questions, especially even with our web APIs. So we do ask that you have a privacy policy for your app stating what you collect and how you treat it.
Okay.
Can a user or can my app go back and query the user's history that they put in, so I could see which, like for instance, like with a badging application, if I want to save their badges as a moment and I want to show all badges that they've earned, could I do that?
We currently, for the history API, we're only providing the ability to write into the history. And so currently the option is just to write into it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
But that's a great suggestion. Thanks.
Hi, just to finish your example, so you shared the activity asking for a hike, and let's say 5 people plus 1 that activity, and 3 people commented asking to move the date. How would application find out about it?
How would your application find out about it? That's a great question. You can retrieve activities through the API.
But you have to keep pulling them, right?
That's correct. Well, you could get the ID of the activity and then pull for that specific.
So just application will have to keep track
Correct.
of. Okay. All right.
Okay, so you would want some. I'd be happy to talk.
Well, it's feedback, right? If you
yeah.
engage something,
Correct.
you want to know what's coming back. So.
Yeah. Right. You'd have to pull
Okay.
for it. Yes.
And so the second question is, once you sign in, the open auth is hidden from you, but I assume that there is an open auth token return back.
Yes.
And is there any way to access that token directly, or is it exposed to the app, or it's completely hidden?
It is exposed to the app. Yeah.
So
But the great part about signing in with Google Plus is that you can simply use the object that you get back for
Right.
all authenticated calls.
And the client ID, which is used to do the open auth, essentially application doesn't have to store the private key, or does it?
So when you create the client ID, you give some information.
Right.
And we can go over that later. I can show you what that flow looks like that would identify your application
Okay,
properly.
all right, thanks.
Great, thank you.
We had a question over here.
Are your services going to expose other write actions for Google Plus, like commenting on existing posts?
So actually, comment activity is one of the moments that you can write
To the history.
to the user's history. Correct.
Okay.
Hi, I noticed there's attribution for +1s, but on the web I didn't see any attribution for moments. Is that coming or not supported?
There are attribution for moments.
Oh, there are?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's something that we're
Yeah.
actively looking into.
I noticed that you had like the ability to add JSON and you construct whole JSON objects and send the intent with that. I was wondering if there's any particular reason why a lot of that stuff can't just be added like to the intent itself, just as extras, as would have been done in the past.
It actually was. It was we stringified it first. It was just to make the construction a little bit more
for the construction.
clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Oh, we have one more.
One last question.
Sure.
So currently the session is active for 1 hour, right? The token which is returned. Auto renewal, does application have to do it explicitly, or?
You can actually try to sign in, and then I believe it just
auto renew
refreshes.
it itself?
Your user shouldn't have to grant permissions again.
Again?
No, they won't.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Mhm. You're just aiming for 2 stickers, aren't you?
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank
Thanks
you
so
very
much.
much.